Hello, Will. You are up next, sir.
Hi Bart, how's it going?
Will, are you the guy that's calling from the Hippodrome?
I am, yes.
All right. So the Hippodrome is I used to know it as a nightclub when I lived in London back in the early 2000s. I don't know if it's still I don't know if it's still a nightclub, but they play poker in there. I know they used to just only play small games, but they seem to be playing bigger games, and now they have a live stream there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Now every Friday there's a live stream, and it's either 5:10 or on this occasion it was a bigger game, 10:25. Yeah.
10, 25 pounds. And how long has that been going on for?
I will say probably since February. I'm not too sure because I only started playing on it around that time. It might have been late last year, but I think it was early this year.
Okay. All right. So it's 1025. And what are the effective stacks here?
With the 25 pounds big blind ante as well. I didn't mention.
Oh, okay. So it's a 25. So 1025, I'm going to put 25 in the parentheses. No straddle or anything, or?
No straddles allowed. Yeah,
Okay.
just big blind ante. Yeah.
And how deep are you?
So I was the effective stack with 3.4k.
All right. So 3.4K effective. Now, just a little bit I always talk about usually games in Europe are tougher than American games. That's why you see that's why you see a lot of Euros come over to the States. And why that is, I think there's just less players. Like, I just don't think that in Europe there is that much of a recreational, what am I trying to say? Like a recreational culture for poker. Like, historically, it just doesn't go back as far as the US. So you just don't see as many recreational players. I don't know what your take on that is.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, especially at the higher levels. You just don't see as much dead money as you do in the States. There isn't a rich culture of, I don't want to say that there isn't a rich culture of gambling, because there's certainly a rich culture of like OTBs, like off track betting types of places. I remember that, but just specifically poker. So it's usually going to be a tougher game. All right, so 10 and a quarter with a 25-pound ante, 3.5K effective. Okay, start us off here.
So it falls to me in the hijack, and I open to 75 pounds with ace of clubs, five of diamonds.
Ace of clubs, five of diamonds. Okay.
Yeah, bit of a loose open, I know, but at this point the game was playing quite tight pre-flop, and I had a good enough image, so I just made a relatively loose open on this occasion.
This is a full ring game?
Eight-handed, yeah.
Okay, eight-handed. All right, so you make a little bit of a loose open in the hijack with ace of clubs, five of diamonds. Okay. Uh-huh.
And then button calls and big blind calls.
So the button and the big blind call, and we're off to 225. In these games, so it's interesting too, because in the States, another reason why a lot of European players come over in the States is because and also from Australia, is because the rake is just so damn high. In the States, once you get to a level like this here, where it's like 10 and a quarter, this would almost always be a time game. Is this a time game, or is this a rake there?
It was a time game, so it was 40 pounds per hour.
40 pounds per hour. So what is that? Like 80% of the big blind. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty high. Like, I mean, if you were playing $10, $20 at Commerce for time, I think it's probably 12 or something like that. All right, so 225 pounds to the flop. Okay.
Yeah. I had 260 bahts just with a 25 pounds. Big.
Oh, because of the ante. Okay, 260.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the flop comes king of clubs, five of spades, four of clubs.
King of clubs, five of spades, four of clubs. So front door flush draw, and you flop a five, and you have the ace of clubs in your hand.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So big blind checks. I see bet for 100, and then both the button and the big blind call.
So hero bets 100, and both call. All right. So I don't think that there's anything really wrong with that. I mean, you're sort of using like 1/3-ish, a little over 1/3 type of sizing. You certainly could have the best hand. You have the ace of clubs in your hand. Another thing too with king high boards, a lot of times, like if it's a tough game, it's kind of hard for people to have king access top pair in a lot of single raise pots, because I feel like they would be 3-bet off a lot. So like a hand like king jack suited, king queen suited, king 10 suited, things like that, ace king are going to be 3-bet off a lot, especially when you're in the hijack opening. I mean, not always, but I think that, and then people aren't really supposed to be playing, offsuit kings. So that's something to note. Hijack bet's 100, both call, and the pot is 560 pounds.
Yeah. So at this point, I guess I put the button player on maybe like a middling pocket pair. He could have flattered with some hands like king queen offsuit, I guess. So that was kind of what I was thinking the button had. And then I thought with the big blind overcalling, I kind of ruled out him having like any super strong hands like sets or 5-4 for two pair, because I felt like he would have probably raised off those hands.
Well, the one thing of note, though, too, with the ante, right, he's actually getting a better price in the big blind closing the action, kind of like if it was a 3-blind straddle game. So you might see some reflection of hands like king 3 suited, like king 8 suited. Like when you just go to 3x and the guy calls, that's 150. He's already in for 25. So 175, 185. It's like 210, 50 for him. He's getting like 4-1 closing the action 3-way. So he might actually have some of those king X types of hands. I was kind of more thinking about the people in the field, but it's 560 pounds, right? On king of clubs, 5 of spades, 4 of clubs. Okay, let's go to the turn.
Correct.
Okay.
So the turn was the deuce of hearts.
So the deuce of hearts comes on the turn. Obviously, a hand like ace 3 comes in. You have ace 5. Rob, when you have the ace of clubs in your hand, I mean, I think we're starting to get a little bit too thin. If you were, I don't know if you were thinking about betting again here for value, but against 2 people, it's a little bit optimistic here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when big blind checks, I check and the button checks as well. So it's checked around.
Now, of course, you said that this was on a live stream. I don't know if you ever take down notes when you're playing off of the live stream, because if you're relatively new to the game, you want to remember your hands the best that you possibly can. And I've talked about this before on this live stream and on this podcast, that we've got a couple of guys in the CLP community that have developed an app called Fastroll that makes it very easy to input your live hands. And you can share your hands with anybody that you want to, coaches, other players. And as you continue to take notes on your hands, you start to develop a database of all your hands that are played. And you've got this gigantic database of live hands that you can look back at, kind of like a poker tracker for live poker. So check it out. King of clubs, 5 of spades, 4 of clubs, deuce of hearts. Check, check, check. All right, let's go to the river.
Yeah, so the river was the 10 of hearts.
All right, so total brick, king of clubs, 5 of spades, 4 of clubs, deuce of hearts. Okay, 10 of hearts.
Yeah. So now the big blind checks again.
Okay.
And my, I guess, decision point here was I still felt like my hand was probably behind that of the button player. And again, I put him on, middling pocket pairs from, let's just say, 6s through to 9s. So I wanted to fold out those hands. So I bet £260.
So this is interesting. So you felt like you wanted to turn your hand here into a bluff to get like a middling type of pair out of the hand, like a hand like 7s or 8s, that just from like the button of the big blind that didn't squeeze?
Exactly, yeah.
I gotta be honest with you here. I don't know if I would actually do this with ace 5. I think your hand has enough showdown value. And here's the thing, like, you're never going to have king little fold like the guy from the big blind. Now, you might say, well, he never has that if he doesn't just come out and bet at the end with like king 3, king 7, king 8. I don't even know if like you get like 10x of clubs here to fold when you check this turn, because the turn is kind of a brick. I mean, I know that the big blind is in there, so you have to have more respect for any kind of like turn type of play. So we wouldn't always see the turn get bet here. I'm just saying, like, if I was the button here and I somehow flatted you with 9, 10 of clubs and you bet 260 here at the end, I get maybe you might get me to fold. I just don't think I'm ever folding a king. You're saying you're specifically targeting like 7s or 8s. I don't know. I think your hand might be too strong to do this. I just don't even know if it's necessary, I guess is my point.
Yeah. No, I see your point.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking that I wasn't worried about the big blind so much, because I guess I put him on a flush draw throughout the hand, especially after he checks the turn and now the river. So I was mainly worried about the button player. And yeah, like I said, I put him on a middling pair from 6s through to 9s, and I thought I could get those to fold.
So you end up betting 260. Okay. What does the button do?
So the button does fold.
All right. So the button folds. Okay.
And now the big blind, to my surprise, check raises to 1500.
Whoa. Big blind check raises to 1500. Now, before everyone says, oh my God, snap, fold, why is this hand even being discussed? Blah, 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 blah. This brings up an interesting situation where, and this is, I remember having this spot, not necessarily in no limit a whole lot, but I remember happening in limit when I used to play a lot of high stakes limit 08. So you're in a situation where you were bluffing on the river, and your bluff is now actually possibly becoming a bluff catcher because this guy is so polarized now, and you have you have showdown value against a polarized range of bluffs and the nuts. Now it becomes, can we figure out if this guy doesn't have the nuts enough to make this call? Now, again, going back to the river, I don't think I bluff here, but now that you did, and now you're facing a check raise, I think it gets kind of interesting. So the pot here is going to be 820 plus 1500. So it's 2320, right? 1500 to call, something like that. So what would this guy do this with here out of the big blind? It's always a little bit troubling, though. Maybe not a little bit. When you take a look at a hand like this, you think to yourself, well, if a guy just had like some sort of totally busted out draw, why would he try to go for a check raise here? Because it could just get checked through again, right? It got checked through on the turn. Wouldn't he just come out and bet? And we've talked about theory of like sometimes river check raise bluffing, where sometimes a guy to the rear, sometimes the theory of river check raise bluffing is that you take a hand that has some showdown value, and you sometimes will turn it into a bluff if you think that it has a higher EV of raising to try to get the guy to fold as opposed to calling. But that's a hand with some showdown value because you want to give yourself some chance to win if it goes check, check. You kind of played this hand in such a way where I don't know if the big blind has to turn anything into a bluff here. I mean, it kind of looks like you are a little bit, it kind of looks like you're going for a little bit of thin value. Again, it comes into play. Like, I don't know how often King X is always bet here because the big blind is so wide on the turn. So if you were checking sometimes like a hand like Ace King or something like that, he might need to feel like he needs to turn something into a bluff. It gets curious. I mean, even in live poker, these hands are very, very under bluffed. I mean, I will tell you that I had a hand like this. I mean, I from the flagship podcast this week, from all you subscribers, I wasn't turning a hand into a bluff at Encore last week, but I checked a turn that I don't normally check, and then value bet the river with aces on like a king, queen. I think it was king, 4, 5, queen, 9. King, 4, 5, queen, 9. And I bet aces on the river 3 ways against 2 winning players. And a guy I was actually in the similar spot. Well, I was in the big blind, and this guy in the small blind check raised the river. He check raised the river. After checking the river, I bet with aces, and I went fold, and he check raised. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I called, and he was bluffing with a straight draw. I mean, what does this guy have for thick value that he checks here again? I mean, the thing is that sometimes like advanced players will get tricky, and they will risk it getting checked through to try to like out-level you if you are to bet in this particular spot. Do you know anything about the guy here in the big blind?
Yeah, he is a high-stakes player. I've kind of played with him on a couple of other occasions. On this night, he was playing quite tight. He post-flop, he was definitely capable, that's for sure. So, my thinking here was kind of what you said. My dilemma was the fact that if he had a value hand, why would he not come out and bet? After turn was checked around, the river was very likely to be checked around as well. But then again, he was in the big blind, so he did have both myself and the button player behind him. So, if he was in a later position with fewer players to act behind, he might have just gone for a straight up lead on the river.
I got to throw something else out here at you, Will, here too, which does not bode well. Is that are there some bluffs that you lose to here? Like, is there a hand like 9-10 of clubs here that decides that it's better to raise than to call? And that would be a disaster if you're thinking about calling here. If he was turning something into a bluff, or like pocket sixes, or like pocket, I don't know if he overcalls the flop here. Does he ever overcall the flop with pocket threes? You bet 100 on king 5-4. It's pretty light to overcall the flop here with pocket threes with the 3 of clubs or something like that. I mean, remember the button called, so I was just trying to well, of course you beat pocket threes. So pocket sixes, something like that. I don't know if I can find some hands here that I lose to accidentally, it can be pretty tough. So you're getting about 1.5 to 1 here, right?
Yeah.
About 1.5 to 1.
Yeah, I was thinking, he might have had a hand like 5x of clubs on the flop. That might have been a hand to overcall there with. And then, as you said, he has some showdown value at the end.
Well, you beat 5x of clubs, right?
Yeah, but he might be thinking, once I bet the river, he has to raise because he was probably no longer good against whatever I was betting the river with.
Right. But I'm saying that if you call, you win against 5x of clubs as long as it's not 5 deuce of clubs. I mean, you block having ace 3, which is obviously the thick nuts, and then you block having he doesn't have pocket kings, right? You block a set of 5s. So that leaves like 4-4, ace 3. You have an ace in your hand. I don't know how wide these guys are. I mean, you're really not supposed to be calling here with ace 3 offsuit here in the big blind, even with an ante. That's a terrible call pre-flop. Anyways, getting 4 to 1. There's no way I think you can realize in that spot. It's probably not a call with ace 3 off, but does he know that? It's interesting that you block pocket 5s, block ace 3. He doesn't have king. So 4-4. I don't know if he calls with 6-3 suited. I guess I might be able to get on board here with the call if you think that he's very, very capable. And then I can just deduce out that I want 10x of clubs to just call the river and not raise me. So if you think that all the other hands that are going to turn it into a bluff you beat, then I suppose you could make a case for call. What did you end up doing?
It was a really tough one. I tanked for quite a while. And in the end, I was basically thinking that, to my earlier point, I probably think that he would have raised off some really strong hands, like flop sets or 2 pairs on the flop. And also with regarding to ace 3, if it was suited, I thought there was a slight chance he would have squeezed pre-flop as well. So
if he had ace 3 suited, right? Something like if he was playing ace 3, yeah.
Yeah. So eventually I did flick in the call.
And
unfortunately do lose to ace 3 of diamonds.
So, all right. So he had ace 3 of diamonds that didn't squeeze. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. So, I mean, again, we don't necessarily know, but if he's not calling with ace 3 off in the big blind, and let's say he squeezes sometimes with ace 3 suited, there's only 3 combos of ace 3 suited that are left. Even if he squeezes with like one of those 3, only one of those 3, that leaves 2 ace 3 suiteds left. I don't know if he calls with 6-3 suited in the big blind. But you hard blocking pocket 5s. There's just there isn't just a ton of thick value out there. I mean, you could even make a case here that you having ace 5 might be a better combo than like you having some king X, maybe. I mean, that might not be the case if he ever does this with some kings up, like if he rivered like king 10. But then again, you probably wouldn't be betting. I mean, it was a weird bet anyways, right? Because you're not going to probably bet like pocket. I mean, I don't know. Like if you have pocket 6, like 7s here, you're not probably bet. I mean, the whole reason you said that you bet the river was to kind of turn it into a bluff. But if somehow you were in here with 7s or 8s, I think I'd rather have ace 5 than 7s or 8s here as a call. Just because it's blocking, pocket 5s and ace 3.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.